You're watching The Nation at 5. My name is Toya Singh. It is, as we just said, 5 p.m., which means that we have just 1 hour to go for the INDIA's third official meeting. Remember, their first meeting took place in Patna. Their second meeting took place last month in Bengaluru. This third meeting, very important, taking place in Mumbai. Several senior leaders have, as we've told you, arrived through the day today in Mumbai for this meeting. Now, right on top of the agenda, 2 things. Number 1, seat sharing. Number 2, who the convener is going to be. Take a look. 28 parties are sending about 63 representatives to the meetings that are taking place in the next 2 days, starting today in the evening. An informal meeting, a dinner, and then tomorrow more formal meetings between each of these parties. Let's take a look very quickly at what's on the agenda for the INDIA bloc when they meet later today and tomorrow. Again, remember, today is for informal discussions. Why? Number 1, as we told you earlier, what's going to be the INDIA's poll symbol? Because remember, this is an alliance, multiple different parties, multiple different poll symbols coming together. What are voters pressing? That's obviously point number 1. Point number 2, this is also particularly important because it affects other decisions. The decision of the structure of the INDIA bloc. So, will there be smaller groups, for example, that are regionally broken down to decide seat sharing in different states? That's what's going to be decided in the number 2 priority. Number 3, other wings, the research wing, as we're telling you, the coordination panel. Coordination panel, obviously key to make sure that each of these 26 parties is sending out the same message on social media. The decision on a potential secretariat, who are going to be the spokespeople and which parties are they coming in from? That's obviously key. As we told you already, social media. And what's the language that all these parties are going to be using on social media over the next few months? That's also going to be decided here. And then preparing a committee that decides what the national agenda will be when they take on the BJP and its alliance members in 2024. Now, common campaign issues, as we've already told you, obviously we already know some of them, price inflation being one of the key issues that we know the opposition has already spoken out on. But what are the other key issues, particularly when it comes down to the states and the preparation of a schedule, a joint action schedule? All of these things are on the agenda when these groups are meeting. Remember, this INDIA bloc meeting is going to be taking place in just a little while from now. And then there's an informal dinner at Uddhav Thackeray's house. Uddhav Thackeray, of course, the former chief minister, Shiv Sena leader in Maharashtra. Let's go to my colleague Yesha. Yesha's actually been positioned outside each of these offices, each of these venues through the day today. Right now, as you can see, she is outside the venue where the meeting is going to be starting in just an hour from now. Yesha, we've been checking in with you regularly through the day. What's the sense you're getting? Is there a sense of nervousness, a sense of excitement among the alliance members? Do they feel that they will be able to tackle very important issues, something like seat sharing, something like selecting a convener? These are uphill battles. Tell us more.
So yes, in fact, while we spoke to some of these leaders, of course, though they sounded confident, there was a bit of a glitch when we see that none of them were very clear about what would the actual common agenda be that they'll take forth. We in fact see that while there are arrangements that have been made at Hayat, what really happens next? Of course, there's logo unveiling, like you've mentioned, the discussion to have a convener. Apart from that, a discussion to have a common spokesperson, a discussion to also have a space, an office kind of a space. All of these things are, of course, a part of the larger plan. But when we speak to all of these delegates who've come in from various parts of the country, when we try and understand what the sense is, what would in fact be one ground that they would take, or different aspects that they would take as the country heads into Lok Sabha elections for next year. There is no such clarity as for now. Of course, we see that there's a price inflation that's being spoken about. Some of the delegates who had in fact come here also spoke about how they want to raise the issue of atrocities against women. These two aspects were very clearly brought out. But apart from that, each and every representative coming in from these different states, they want to speak about the concerns of those states. And like we've seen, Sharad Pawar mentioned a plan yesterday wherein he said that a seat that each and every alliance partner, each and every party, they could come forth, and later on, once the elections are around the corner, is when these aspects could be discussed, or seat sharing could be discussed post-election. So these aspects, they remain unclear while the alliance tries to come forth. Apart from that, when you see that these are all leaders who've come forth here, leaders from particular states, from the particular political party, who are right here, who want to put forth their stands. But as we'll head into elections next year, what will be the seat sharing game? That is something that's still not clear about. This year, this meeting's agenda rests on just 5 aspects for that matter. One is a logo launch, the other one is to assign a speaker. There could also be some discussions about convener, but the other aspects, whether there be a common ground on what they discuss, what would be the main agenda when state heads into events, once there are 4 state assembly elections and then the Lok Sabha election, that is something that's still unclear about.
Okay.
There are aspects of various states, such as that of COVID-related issues. That was something that was also pointed out by various delegates. But that is, of course, not the point of discussion in this meet.
All right. Yasha, thank you for that context. Yasha is joining us, as you can see, from outside the meeting venue. My colleague Vinaya Deshpande, our Mumbai Bureau Chief, also with us. Vinaya, just stay with us. We'll come to you in a second. We're going to come to you with questions about what I want to next share with our audiences. This big question of who the convener is going to be. That obviously remains, and we have with us an input we received earlier today from top sources within the Congress that indicated that the party will not be pitching for the convener post in the INDIA bloc. Now, you can obviously see Rahul Gandhi's picture, because it was earlier Rahul Gandhi. In the last few weeks, we've also shared some reports of it possibly being Mallikarjun Kharge that the Congress would nominate for that position. So that's number one. Let's take you through more points that we're getting from Congress sources. Number two, and this is particularly important, that the Congress has made it clear that they're not looking to dictate the INDIA's alliance or terms. The party doesn't want to lead the bloc at all. They don't want to be seen as leading the bloc either. The Congress wants its allies to decide who the convener should be. Remember, there have been other names that have been thrown up. Nitish Kumar and Arvind Kejriwal are both names we've seen their own party members throw up in the last few days. Let's go to my colleague Vinaya Deshpande now for more context. Vinaya, remember, is our Mumbai Bureau Chief. Vinaya, just a few days ago, there was a poster. In fact, I think it was just yesterday. The Congress released a poster where there was very much Rahul Gandhi on the front and other alliance members behind him. Today and yesterday, we've also shared with our audiences that the Congress is saying that they don't want Rahul Gandhi to lead the INDIA. Still, the imagery seems to be pushing only one point home. So tell us, Vinaya, when you're speaking to other alliance members that aren't part of the Congress, what are you sensing? Are they buying the Congress's bid that it isn't looking for leadership?
Well, it's difficult at this point, Toya, because remember that this genuinely is a big concern with respect to several regional players and other parties feeling that the Congress is the big brother. And even if, the Congress tries to quell those kind of anxieties, saying that it will not be in the ring when it comes to the position of the convener, or it will not try to drive the agenda when it comes to talking about what the issues will be, it will let the other parties and other regional forces drive that entire conversation. The fact is, when it comes to the nitty-gritties and when it comes to the nuts and bolts about how India bloc is going to progress and what will be the tangible form in which we will see this alliance roll out on ground, the test of it will be whether they walk the talk. And so when it comes to the point of view of seat allocation, when it comes to the formula that will be used in order to arrive at which party gets what at what stage, that is something that will really be the test of this kind of a statement that Congress is making right now. Because remember, even if they say that they will leave off the convener position, they will not stake claim to this, neither will they give any kind of a driving force to the alliance talks and the agenda talks. What will be crucial is when the nitty-gritties of the alliance work, when the parties sit at the table to discuss about seat sharing, and that is where real concerns remain, and that is where we are probably looking at some leaders to broker peace, to broker, to in some sense quell those anxieties and come at a formula, arrive at a formula which will be acceptable to all the forces, including the regional parties. The test of it we saw when it came to the prime ministerial phase, how there were statements that were being made saying that this is not something that is on discussion right now. In fact, the 1977 formula that is being projected right now by leaders including Sharad Pawar, but whether that will really find acceptance among all the regional forces, or at a time when regional forces are clearly making their voice heard, how will this go ahead is something we will get to know only much later, probably even later after this meeting, because differences will remain. And when it comes to ideologies, when it comes to seat sharing, there is a lot of ground that needs to be covered in case this bloc has to move ahead. As of now, no answers coming to any of these questions. Back to you.
Vinaya, thank you for that context. You can in fact see some of the leaders arriving right behind Vinaya. I believe that is the Congress's Pawan Khera standing behind her. Vinaya, thank you. Yasha, I'd also like to thank you. We're going to bring our audiences, you can see that in the frame, we're going to bring our audiences more reactions to this story in just a second.
ये तो बात अगर आप देखें तो बीजेपी जितना हमें टारगेट कर रही है, उनके मन में डर बैठा हुआ है कि इंडिया भी जीत रही है। उनका जो उनकी नफरत है वो भारत से, उनकी नफरत इंडिया से, उनकी नफरत हमारे देश के संविधान से है, और वो हम उन्हें जीतने नहीं देंगे। नहीं, ये क्या महायुति, ये तो सारे डरपोक लोग साथ में आए हुए हैं जो ईडी को डर रहे थे, एनआईए को डर रहे थे। ये सारे लोग एक साथ, अगर आप देखें तो महाराष्ट्र को पीछे लेके जा रहे, तो हम उनके और ध्यान नहीं देखें। अगर आप देखें तो आज किसान त्रस्त है, आज महिलाओं का आवाज कोई सुन रहा नहीं है, उनके लिए हम लड़ रहे हैं। आई थिंक यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड फ्रॉम उद्धव जी वेरी क्लियरली yesterday that we have many choices. You have a country of 120 crore people. The BJP has no choice, but we have many choices for the PM face.
देखिए, अगर आपको विकास का एक ताना बाना बुनना है देश में, इफ यू वांट टू रियली हैव डेवलपमेंट इन दिस कंट्री, विकास का ताना बाना बुनना है इस देश में, तो आपके पास नीति की सूत होनी चाहिए, नियत का कपास होना चाहिए और नेता रूपी जुलाहा होना चाहिए। अगर ये तीनों होंगे, सूत होगा, कपास होगा, जुलाहा होगा, तभी विकास की बुनाई होगी। यहां न नीति है, न नेता है। इस मीटिंग को अगर एक हिंदी के मुहावरे में कहा जाए तो वो मुहावरा होगा, न सूत न कपास, जुलाहों में लट्ठम लट्ठा। कि हम सब बैठेंगे और कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम CMP बनाएंगे। आज का मुख्य उद्देश्य उनका है CMP बनाना, हमारा भी मानना है, यही इनका एजेंडा है। कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम और मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट कैसे हो, कम से कम काम और ज्यादा से ज्यादा कमाना, यह किस प्रकार हो, यही इनकी नियति है, यही इनका उद्देश्य है। इस घमंडिया गठबंधन का उद्देश्य ही है मिनिमम प्रोग्राम, मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट, करप्शन से मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट। सभी जानते हैं कि GM की मीटिंग मुंबई में हो रही है। GM मतलब घमंडिया मीटिंग, ये आज मुंबई में है। वास्तविक रूप में ये जो म्यूजिकल चेयर विपक्षी दलों के बीच में चल रहा है, इसके विषय में ज्यादा बताने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। मैंने बहुत सोच समझ कर म्यूजिकल चेयर के शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया है, क्योंकि इस प्रकार के विपक्ष के मीटिंग का अनुभव आप लोगों के लिए, देश के लिए और हमारे लिए कोई नया नहीं है।
We see that one hand there's an India alliance meet happening. Parallelly, even Eknath Shinde has called up all his alliance partners and BJP leaders at NSCI. They'll also be having a dinner meet. So, ma'am, what do you have to say on that?
Who are his alliance partners? ED, IT, CBI. Yeah, he's called them. So I don't want to speak much about it because it takes agenda away from people's agenda. India is speaking people's agenda. India party members are speaking about India's agenda, and the agenda is the absolute uselessness of the central government, absolute failure of an unconstitutional government, an absolute abject failure to people's issues.
We understand that there will be a logo which will be unveiled. There will be discussion on the convener, but will a PM face also be decided, because that's a question that people are asking.
No, people are not asking. People are not asking you whether it's the Prime Minister which is important or whether their daily lives being impacted by high prices is the problem. People will ask you whether it is the farmers which is an issue or whether it is who's the Prime Minister will be an issue. The country knows that there are many capable leaders. They've reduced the entire nation to one leader, which India will never accept.
आप एनडीए की और बीजेपी की खास तौर पे बौखलाहट इसी चीज़ से देख सकते हैं कि वो लगातार हम पर हमारे नाम को लेकर हमले कर रहे हैं, और इतने बड़े बड़े लोग, यहाँ तक कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया जिन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया के तहत अपना कार्यभार संभाला, इंडियन फ्लैग के नीचे खड़े होकर शपथ ली, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने उन्हें शपथ दिलाई, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के वो मुखिया हैं, सरकार में आने के बाद स्टार्टअप इंडिया, स्किल इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया, बढ़ेगा इंडिया, खेलो इंडिया, चलेगा इंडिया, न जाने कौन कौन सी स्कीम्स उन्होंने लॉन्च करी, नीतियां लॉन्च करी। आज उसी पार्टी को और उन्हीं लोगों को इंडिया शब्द से नफरत हो गई। आज ये हमारे अलायंस का जो कंपैरिजन है वो किसी आतंकवादी संगठन से कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन्हें इंडिया शब्द से इतनी नफरत हो गई। ये नफरत नहीं है, ये उनकी बौखलाहट है। ये लोग डरे हुए हैं, घबराए हुए हैं कि कहीं ये गठबंधन सफल ना हो जाए।
इस मंथन से अमृत ही निकलेगा और 2024 का एजेंडा तय होगा, संगठन का एजेंडा तय होगा, सवालों का एजेंडा तय होगा, और नया इसका कोई संयोजन मंडल या संयोजक भी हो सकता है। एक झंडा जरूर होगा जिसके नीचे सारे दल मिलकर के चुनाव लड़ेंगे। ये इस मीटिंग की सबसे बड़ी सफलता। देखिए, हम इंडिया के संस्थापक हैं। नीतीश कुमार जी के ही प्रारंभिक प्रयासों का नतीजा है कि इंडिया का निर्माण हुआ। वो किसी पद के लिए या किसी संगठनात्मक पद के लिए नहीं था, वो 2024 में भारतीय जनता पार्टी से इफेक्टिव तरीके से मुकाबला करने के लिए था। हमें प्रसन्नता है कि हमारा लगा हुआ पौधा आज फल दे रहा है और इंडिया का विस्तार हो रहा है।
All right, and in related news, the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray faction's leader Arvind Sawant hitting out at the government earlier, announcing, remember, Union Minister Prahlad Joshi had announced that the government would be having a 5-day special session. They'd be convening a special session of the parliament from September 18th to the 22nd. Now you have Arvind Sawant saying that no session has ever been held on Ganesh Chaturthi. So why is it being done this year? Remember, Ganesh Chaturthi is a celebration that is celebrated across the country, but with a special emphasis in the western and the central parts. So, for example, in Maharashtra and in Gujarat. Let's take a look and then we'll connect with the reporter.
पार्लियामेंट के इतिहास में कभी भी त्योहार के समय, वो नवरात्रि हो या गणपति हो, पार्लियामेंट का सेशन कभी हुआ नहीं। अब इन्होंने गणपति के त्योहार में सब
times, and you can see right on top Adani Group, hidden investors and a secret paper trail. Here is another one, The Guardian. Modi linked Adani family secretly invested in own shares, documents suggest. And the third one, a wealthy Indian family with links to Modi invested in own shares. Now, these are not any random newspapers. These are newspapers that affect investment in India. They affect the perception of our country in the rest of the world. Now, there are a few questions that they are asking. These newspapers are asking. First of all, they are stating clearly that over $1 billion of money went from India, was circulated in different places, and then came back to India. This is, according to them, clearly proved with documentation that they have. Right? So the question, first question arises, whose money is this? ये किसका पैसा है? ये अदानी जी का पैसा है या ये किसी और का पैसा है? So that is the first question. Second question, the mastermind behind this is a gentleman called Vinod Adani. He is the brother of Mr. Gautam Adani, and there are two other people who are involved in this round tripping of money. One is a gentleman called Nasser Ali Shaban Ali, and another is a Chinese gentleman called Chang Chung Ling. So the second question arises, why are these two foreign nationals being allowed to play with the valuation of one of the companies that controls almost all of Indian infrastructure? Who are these people? And why are they being allowed to do this? And what is the role of the brother of Mr. Adani in all this? The final point, which is a very interesting point, is that there was an investigation, evidence was given to SEBI, and SEBI gave a clean chit to Mr. Adani. And it's very interesting to note that the gentleman, the same gentleman who gave a clean chit to Mr. Adani, is today a director in NDTV. So it is very clear that there is something very wrong here.
का एजेंडा तय होगा और नया इसका कोई संयोजन मंडल या संयोजक भी हो सकता है। एक झंडा जरूर होगा जिसके नीचे सारे दल मिलकर के चुनाव लड़ेंगे। ये इस मीटिंग की सबसे बड़ी सफलता। देखिए, हम इंडिया के संस्थापक हैं। नीतीश कुमार जी के ही प्रारंभिक प्रयासों का नतीजा है कि इंडिया का निर्माण हुआ। वो किसी पद के लिए या किसी संगठनात्मक पद के लिए नहीं था, वो 2024 में भारतीय जनता पार्टी से इफेक्टिव तरीके से मुकाबला करने के लिए था। हमें प्रसन्नता है कि हमारा लगा हुआ पौधा आज फल दे रहा है और इंडिया का विस्तार हो रहा है।
At 6 p.m. is when all of the opposition leaders are going to be at that meeting venue. 6:30 is when those informal talks happen, which is why the BJP says that this is nothing more than a party. But we have leaders that are already reaching in Mumbai now ahead of that meeting. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi have just arrived. But let's take a look at what the Congress's stand on this is, because remember, massive controversy erupted after a poster was put out by the Congress party on its social media handles yesterday, which portrayed Rahul, or projected Rahul Gandhi, as the leader of this pack, and that seems to have ruffled a few feathers. So now, sources within the Congress party have told your channel that they are not going to be pitching for the post of the convener. The Congress is not going to be dictating any terms. They're not going to be wanting to be the natural leader of this India alliance. That's what we're now learning. The party doesn't want to leave the India bloc. They want to take everyone forward. They do not want to project this big brother image. The Congress wants allies to decide on who the convener is going to be. It is going to be a joint discussion, a joint decision. The Congress will not naturally want to be the convener or be the leader of this alliance, is the image that they want to project. CNN News 18 has now accessed the agenda of this all-crucial meeting. Remember, this is the third meeting that is taking place of this opposition bloc titled India. The finalization of India's logo is on the cards. That's going to be unveiled tomorrow, followed by discussions on key issues ahead of 2024 elections. A panel is also likely to be formed for the national agenda.
The meeting comes amidst many claimants for the post of the Prime Minister, but that is something that a decision is not going to come to the fore just as yet. A top source in the Grand Old Party has now told CNN News 18 that the Congress will not be pitching for the convener's post just as yet. They do not want to play the big brother as far as this alliance goes. That's not the optics they want to project, is what we're learning. Meanwhile, Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde is also going to be holding a dinner for the BJP and its alliance partners in Mumbai. So one city, two different alliances, two different meetings and two different optics. All of that buzz is being captured here on CNN News 18. But first, let's get you some reactions coming in from the opposition camp.
ये तो बात अगर आप देखें तो बीजेपी जितना हमें टारगेट कर रही है, उनके मन में डर बैठा हुआ है कि इंडिया भी जीत रही है। उनका जो उनकी नफरत है वो भारत से, उनकी नफरत इंडिया से, उनकी नफरत हमारे देश के संविधान से है, और वो हम उन्हें जीतने नहीं देंगे। नहीं, ये क्या महायुति, ये तो सारे डरपोक लोग साथ में आए हुए हैं, जो ईडी को डर रहे थे, एनआईए को डर रहे थे। ये सारे लोग एक साथ अगर आप देखें तो महाराष्ट्र को पीछे लेके जा रहे हैं, तो हम उनके और ध्यान नहीं देखें। अगर आप देखें तो आज किसान त्रस्त है, आज महिलाओं का आवाज कोई सुन रहा नहीं है, उनके लिए हम लड़ रहे हैं। आई थिंक यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड फ्रॉम उद्धव जी वेरी क्लियरली yesterday that we have many choices. You have a country of 120 crore people. The BJP has no choice, but we have many choices for the PM face.
देखिए, अगर आपको विकास का एक ताना बाना बुनना है देश में, इफ यू वांट टू रियली हैव डेवलपमेंट इन दिस कंट्री, विकास का ताना बाना बुनना है इस देश में, तो आपके पास नीति की सूत होनी चाहिए, नियत का कपास होना चाहिए और नेता रूपी जुलाहा होना चाहिए। अगर ये तीनों होंगे, सूत होगा, कपास होगा, जुलाहा होगा, तभी विकास की बुनाई होगी। यहां न नीति है, न नेता है। इस मीटिंग को अगर एक हिंदी के मुहावरे में कहा जाए तो वो मुहावरा होगा, न सूत न कपास, जुलाहों में लट्ठम लट्ठा। कि हम सब बैठेंगे और कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम CMP बनाएंगे। आज का मुख्य उद्देश्य उनका है CMP बनाना। हमारा भी मानना है, यही इनका एजेंडा है, कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम और मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट कैसे हो, कम से कम काम और ज्यादा से ज्यादा कमाना, यह किस प्रकार हो, यही इनकी नियति है, यही इनका उद्देश्य है। इस घमंडिया गठबंधन का उद्देश्य ही है मिनिमम प्रोग्राम, मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट, करप्शन से मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट। सभी जानते हैं कि GM की मीटिंग मुंबई में हो रही है। GM मतलब घमंडिया मीटिंग, ये आज मुंबई में है। वास्तविक रूप में ये जो म्यूजिकल चेयर विपक्षी दलों के बीच में चल रहा है, इसके विषय में ज्यादा बताने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। मैंने बहुत सोच समझ कर म्यूजिकल चेयर के शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया है, क्योंकि इस प्रकार के विपक्ष के मीटिंग का अनुभव आप लोगों के लिए, देश के लिए और हमारे लिए कोई नया नहीं है।
We see that one hand, there's an India Alliance Meet happening. Parallelly, even Eknath Shinde has called up all his alliance partners and BJP leaders at NSCI. They'll also be having a dinner meet. So, ma'am, what do you have to say on that?
Who are his alliance partners? ED, IT, CBI. Yeah? He's called them. So I don't want to speak much about it because it takes agenda away from people's agenda. India is speaking people's agenda. India party members are speaking about India's agenda, and the agenda is the absolute uselessness of the central government, absolute failure of an unconstitutional government, an absolute abject failure to people's issues.
We understand that there will be a logo which will be unveiled. There will be discussion on the convener, but will a PM face also be decided, because that's a question that people are asking.
No, people are not asking. People are not asking you whether it's the Prime Minister which is important or whether their daily lives being impacted by high prices is the problem. People will ask you whether it is the farmers which is an issue or whether it is who's the Prime Minister will be an issue. The country knows that there are many capable leaders. They've reduced the entire nation to one leader, which India will never accept.
आप एनडीए की और बीजेपी की खास तौर पे बौखलाहट इसी चीज़ से देख सकते हैं कि वो लगातार हम पर हमारे नाम को लेकर हमले कर रहे हैं, और इतने बड़े बड़े लोग यहाँ तक
Welcome back. You're watching The Nation at 5 right here on CNN News 18. We're now going to take you to a story that we actually broke on the channel just a few hours ago. The Union Parliamentary Affairs Minister made an announcement in which he said that now the government is going to be hosting a special session of the Parliament between August 18th and the 23rd. It's going to be a 5-day session. And why this matters so much is because the agenda isn't yet known. But it's very rare for a government to decide to do exactly this. Now we're going to bring you more context on this story and more, all of the reactions that have come through. First, let's take a look at what the Uddhav Thackeray faction's Arvind Sawant had to say. He made this comment just a few minutes ago. Take a look.
पार्लियामेंट के इतिहास में कभी भी त्योहार के समय वो नवरात्रि हो या गणपति हो, पार्लियामेंट का सेशन कभी हुआ नहीं। अब इन्होंने गणपति के त्योहार में सप्तमी त्योहार से भी गणपति की आराधना करने का जो कार्यकाल होता है उस 11 दिन में इन्होंने अपना अधिवेशन लगाया। ये इनका हिंदुत्व।
All right, as we were telling you a little while earlier, what Arvind Sawant is pointing towards right now is the fact that the festival will be taking place on August 19th. So just one day into the parliamentary session. This is a festival that takes place across India, but it's one that's celebrated particularly in the western and the central parts of the country. So states like Rajasthan, like Madhya Pradesh, like Maharashtra, where Arvind Sawant is from, and Gujarat. Now his point in bringing this up was, of course, how it would affect MPs that belong in the Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha from any of these regions if they had to be present at the special session of Parliament. Remember, we spoke to our reporters earlier and they were hesitant to suggest what it is that this special session could have been called for. My colleague Payal is with us now. We were speaking to her earlier about exactly this. Payal, if you could first bring us context, Arvind Sawant from the Uddhav Thackeray-led faction of the Shiv Sena has made a comment in which he suggested that, look, there's a festival central to all Maharashtrians taking place just one day into this special session. He's seemingly lodging his protest to this. Can you bring us more context? All right, we'll try to re-establish our connection. But Payal actually spoke to us earlier in the day today about just the special sessions announcement. And at that point, she told us that she was hesitant, as were other reporters, to make any comment on what this special session could be called for. One thing she did rule out, though, was she said that it's unlikely that it's being called to announce a bill with the Uniform Civil Code, which, remember, is something that's this far been very central to the BJP's agenda. It's something that some were speculating they would even introduce before 2024, before others put those speculations to rest. Uniform Civil Code obviously being a common law for all those people who belong to different religions in the country, laws that have to do with personal matters, so marriage, inheritance, etc. Now, my colleague Payal is with us right now to bring us more context. Payal, you had told us about the special sessions announcement earlier. You'd said that it's not correct right now, at least, to speculate on what the agenda will be. Right now, though, we're seeing the Uddhav Thackeray faction of the Shiv Sena, Arvind Sawant. He's making a comment saying, look, you're doing it on days that are going to affect all of us here in Maharashtra who, for example, celebrate Ganesh Chaturthi. Do go ahead, Payal, give us context.
Well, obviously, there is a concern that is being expressed by people in the opposition. Opposition parties like Shiv Sena are saying that, it is Ganesh Chaturthi at this point in time, one of the biggest festivals in the country, one of the biggest festival as far as Maharashtra is concerned. So why would you have the parliament session on this day? What is the tearing hurry? Why is it that no consensus that has been taken from the opposition parties? Why is it that nobody's been asked as to what their preference really will be? So obviously, he's raising the concern of the people of Maharashtra. So many people in the opposition is saying that this is a government which does not take any consensus, does not take any sense from anybody, just goes about doing things on their own as well, because there was a sudden announcement today made by the Parliamentary Affairs Minister saying that there will be 5 days of session. Now, this is a period during which there are holidays in Maharashtra. People keep Ganpatis at their house as well. So that's the concern that they really are expressing. And what is the whole purpose? Because the opposition says that they have not been told the purpose for which this session has suddenly been called in. And that's the concern that a lot of people have been expressing across the platform as well. Even if you ask Toya, the people who are there in the government, they are absolutely tight-lipped as far as this is concerned. They're not really telling you what is the purpose of this session. There is a lot of speculation that is doing the rounds whether or not this session will bring in any bills. To my sources, which looks very, very unlikely, because there was a speculation about Uniform Civil Code, that also looks pretty unlikely. So it possibly could be, after the government has finished the G20 meeting and its success, that is something that they would discuss. So would that require 5 days? What else is there in store is what people want to really ask. It will be important to see when the government really comes out with the agenda, because ahead of the session, if at all there are any bills which are coming out, they'll have to tell the opposition parties and tell Parliament as to what bills really are. But at this point in time, nobody seems to have absolutely any clue as to why this session has been called. But the precedence has been there in the past, Toya, when around 30-35 years ago, when India turned 50 in terms of its independence, a similar situation had arisen, and there was about 4 to 5 day session which was held in 97, if I'm not mistaken. Something of this sort is on the cards, is what we are given to understand. But like I said, everybody, including ministers in the government, have kept completely quiet and tight-lipped as far as this matter is concerned.
Okay, Payal, thank you for bringing us that context. Let's move on now from this story. Let's take you up north to the Supreme Court hearing that's currently carrying on around the pleas that challenge the abrogation of Article 370. Now, a number of very important statements have come from the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, in fact, in answer to some questions raised by the Chief Justice of India. The Chief Justice of India, at multiple points in the last few days, had highlighted the importance of elections soon, the return of democracy, as he called it, in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, to that point, the SG today said that the centre was ready for elections in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, a timeline was not announced, and it's important to point that out. But I very quickly now want to walk you through what it is that the centre is saying and what it is that those who are making this plea are saying when it comes to the question of when elections will take place. Now, the centre is asserting that the peace that is there, the peace that they say is there in Jammu and Kashmir, is not just there because of police activity. Their point is that this is actual peace on the ground, that even if you remove the police from there, would remain. To that, petitioners are contending that there should be no band if Section 144 is imposed. Centres asserting that in the last few years, multiple schemes have been implemented in Jammu and Kashmir. This is something they've said time and time again, that there's been widespread development in different sectors after they've done this. Now, the petitioner has contended that there is enormous unemployment, and they're correct when they say that. Right now, unemployment stands at 18.3%, I believe, in Jammu and Kashmir. The centres asserted that development has never been a problem, but the petitioners have contended that these problems are being created partially by the government's own work. Now, we're going to walk you through different reactions that have come into this story and the statement that Jammu and Kashmir will remain a state, will become a state soon, while Ladakh will remain a UT. Take a look. These are reactions.
सॉलिसिटर जनरल की इस बात को आप कैसे देखते हैं? आपको लगता है कि इलेक्शन जल्द होने चाहिए? हालांकि वोटिंग लिस्ट का उन्होंने कहा है कुछ हद तक उसका काम पेंडिंग है, वो भी जल्द ही मुकम्मल कर लिया जाएगा।
कि भारतीय जनता पार्टी पहले से ही कह रही है कि माहौल साजगार होगा तो इलेक्शन करवाए जा सकते हैं, और उसके लिए डिलिमिटेशन प्रोसेस भी खत्म हो गया है। और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने संसद के पटल पर भी ये बात कही है। ये प्रेरोगेटिव है इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया का। भारतीय जनता पार्टी भी चाहती है कि लोकतांत्रिक सरकार बने, तो मुझे लगता है कि जम्मू कश्मीर में एक लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्था पुनः कायम हो, उसके लिए सरकार ने तुषार मेहता जी के माध्यम से ये बात कह दी।
आपको क्या लगता है किस वक्त सही जो है टाइम वक्त होगा यहाँ जम्मू कश्मीर में इलेक्शन करवाने के लिए? देखिए,
इलेक्शन का पिछले साल भी दिसंबर में इलेक्शन हुए थे, जो 2014 में, तो जब भी इलेक्शन हो हम उसके लिए तैयार हैं। तो इलेक्शन कमीशन जब डिक्लेयर करता है उसके लिए प्रॉपर जो टाइम दिया जाता है वो करने के बाद सब संभव हो पाएगा।
ये वेलकम स्टेप है कि अगर वो चुनाव अनाउंस करते हैं, जब तक चुनाव अनाउंस नहीं हो तब तक गैसिंग होगी। अब सुप्रीम कोर्ट के अंदर ये चीज चल रही है, उसके ऊपर तो हम ज्यादा बहस नहीं करेंगे। वो कल वहां से क्या फैसला आता है वो तो उनके ऊपर हमने छोड़ेंगे, लेकिन हम अभी जो तुषार मेहता साहब कह रहे हैं इस पर कितना भरोसा किया जाए, कितना ना किया जाए, जब तक इलेक्शन अनाउंस नहीं होंगे जम्मू कश्मीर में। और कभी एक बहाना होता है, कभी दूसरा बहाना होता है। गवर्नमेंट कहती है हालात ठीक हैं, सब कुछ ठीक है, तो हम 3 साल से कह रहे हैं कि जब हालात ठीक है तो चुनाव कराओ। और चुनाव के साथ जो दूसरी चीज है कि स्टेट का दर्जा भी बहाल करो।
पहले तो ये कोई नई बात है नहीं, पिछले 4.5 सालों से हमने यही सुना। आज भी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ने वही बात दोहराई जो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया दोहरा रही है पिछले 4.5 सालों से। दूसरी ये बात कि इस इशू को थोड़ा कंफ्यूज किया जा रहा है। इलेक्शंस को लेके और जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जो अर्जी हमारी दायर है, आपको ये समझना चाहिए कि जब हम सुप्रीम कोर्ट गए, हमारे जो है पिटिशनर्स अकबर लोन साहब और हसनैन मसूदी साहब, वो किस चीज को लेके गए? वो इस चीज को लेके गए कि जो अगस्त 5, 2019 में डिसीजंस दिए गए थे, दे वर इलीगल। आज भी एसजी ने फिर से कंफ्यूजन करने की कोशिश की। उन्होंने ये बात कही कि इलेक्टोरल रोल्स अपडेट हो रहे हैं, और ये नहीं बोला वो किस इलेक्शन के लिए अपडेट हो रहे हैं। वो म्युनिसिपल पोल्स के लिए अपडेट हो रहे हैं, असेंबली इलेक्शंस के लिए वो ऑलरेडी हो गया है।
The submissions that have been made in the Supreme Court are not very dissimilar from the statements that have come from the central government in the past 4 years. So I'm disappointed, not because of J&K, but partly because of judiciary. This is the highest pedestal of judiciary, and if they ask a question and the answer is same, as ambiguous as it was 4 years back, as evasive as it was 4 years back. Can you give me a date? If you are so satisfied, can you give me a date? I did not find a date. If your TV company has found a date, please let me know also, because I have to fight. You don't have to fight. See, that's what I'm saying, that even on statehood they are evasive. See, the bigger question, as I said, is that is J&K still a special state? And is this ill treatment just meant for J&K? Or would this be a new norm wherein states will be converted into UTs?
All right, we're now going to head into a very short break. But before we do that, we're cutting to CNBC as the National Statistical Office releases the numbers for quarter number...
Post-COVID in particular, after that big lockdown quarter, we have seen Q1 doing much worse than Q4. Now, let me put it in perspective for those of you who don't look at GDP numbers very closely. Q4 is a very strong quarter for India. Jan, Feb, March. I mean, it's a full throttle production. People are reaching out to targets on March 31st. 2 months of 31 days. So it's really a good quarter for India. And it's called also the busy season. The slack season starts with April. Rains start in large parts of South India in June. Sugar production is over by March. There's no crushing after that. There's very little construction in June, starting from June. So quarter one does tend to be less than quarter four of the previous year. But it is usually about 3%, 4% less. This time it is 20% less on trade, hotels, transport and communication, the big services sector. Nikhil, with that, preface your thoughts.
Thank you, Lata. So, Lata, the headline number is definitely better than what we were expecting. We were at close to 7.2, 7.3. But as far as the details that you have told me, I think there are a couple of things I want to highlight. First of all, you mentioned that public administration and defense services, which includes government spending and a part of the unorganized sector. Yeah. You told us it has shown very good growth 7.9 in Q1. And the expenditure side suggests that government consumption has actually declined, which implies that probably the unorganized or the informal sector is actually doing much better, at least going by this quarter data, which is a very good thing. On the manufacturing, I'm really disappointed because we were also expecting 7.5%, and considering the fact that we know in this quarter there was a lot of compression on the input cost side, prices have gone down and they were able to maintain margins or probably slightly better this quarter. And lastly, I want to highlight that while real GDP growth is broadly in line with consensus, better than our forecast, but the nominal GDP growth is only 8% in the first quarter, which means the deflator was broadly flat because WPI plays a very important role. So overall, as I mentioned, better than our expectations, and the internal, I think the fact or my understanding that the informal or the unorganized sector is growing at a faster pace or has done better than expected, I will take that as a positive.
Okay. Well, I think that's a point I should have mentioned. Nominal GDP this time is not very different from real GDP because the wholesale price index, which you used to deflate, I mean, again, for those of you who don't care for GDP numbers so much, when you count how much India has produced this year versus last year, you count how many cars, how many, airplanes or whatever, but you obviously take the price effect and then you have to deflate it to previous levels. That deflator wholesale price was negative. So that's why your nominal GDP is not very different from the real GDP. But leaving that aside, I think, Nikhil, the big point I get from you is the difference you have noted. In public administration, the growth is 7.9, but government from the expenditure side has not contributed at all. So it looks like the informal sector has grown. That's an extremely cheerful thing. Dr. Sen, it's positive if these other personal services have done well. But how does that tie in with the fact that trade hotels has not done so well? Even that is a services sector, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it is a services sector for sure. But as far as the trade hotels and restaurants are concerned, a lot of the growth that we are picking up in these figures are those of the organized part of the trade hotels and restaurants. And a very large chunk of this sector is actually in the unorganized sector. Now, I think there's a little bit of tapering off on the consumption of these services by the higher income groups, which is what is getting reflected.
Okay.
But I think more importantly, Lata, I think what we have to note is the fact that the private final consumption expenditure, which has grown at 5.9%, is significantly below the growth of GDP, which essentially means that there is still a lot of rebuilding of household savings that is going on. And that is, and I suspect that this is going to continue. Although the good news this time is that capital expenditures, gross capital formation, seems to have done significantly better and back to something which is reasonable. It's around 34 to 35% of GDP, which is not bad. That can give us a growth rate of somewhere around 7% if it sustains.
Yes, it is 35%. Actually, same as last year, same time, the capital formation. But actually, the pace of growth of capital formation is less than the previous quarter, if I remember right. I'm not able to place my, I'm not able to remember the number, but capital formation has been strong for a few quarters. Okay, now, Sakshi, I just want a word on the other numbers that came today. Core sector was strong at 8%. That's for the month of July. But if you looked at the tax growth, gross tax revenues, so there's no cheating here, no saying I gave to the states upfront or anything. I'm only looking at gross tax revenue, and that's grown just 2.8%. The budget estimate was for a growth of 10.5% or 10.4% if I'm not mistaken. So all told, government as a propeller may not work much this time. How do you square all these numbers that we've got?
मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया जिन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया के तहत अपना कार्यभार संभाला, इंडियन फ्लैग के नीचे खड़े होकर शपथ ली, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने उन्हें शपथ दिलाई, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के वो मुखिया हैं, सरकार में आने के बाद स्टार्टअप इंडिया, स्किल इंडिया, मेक इन इंडिया, बढ़ेगा इंडिया, खेलो इंडिया, चलेगा इंडिया, न जाने कौन कौन सी स्कीम्स उन्होंने लॉन्च करी, नीतियां लॉन्च करी। आज उसी पार्टी को और उन्हीं लोगों को इंडिया शब्द से नफरत हो गई। आज ये हमारे अलायंस का जो कंपैरिजन है वो किसी आतंकवादी संगठन से कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि उन्हें इंडिया शब्द से इतनी नफरत हो गई। ये नफरत नहीं है, ये उनकी बौखलाहट है। ये लोग डरे हुए हैं, घबराए हुए हैं कि कहीं ये गठबंधन सफल ना हो जाए।
इस मंथन से अमृत ही निकलेगा और 2024 का एजेंडा तय होगा, संगठन का एजेंडा तय होगा, सवालों का एजेंडा तय होगा और नया इसका कोई संयोजन मंडल या संयोजक भी हो सकता है। एक झंडा जरूर होगा जिसके नीचे सारे दल मिलकर के चुनाव लड़ेंगे। ये इस मीटिंग की सबसे बड़ी सफलता। देखिए, हम इंडिया के संस्थापक हैं। नीतीश कुमार जी के ही प्रारंभिक प्रयासों का नतीजा है कि इंडिया का निर्माण हुआ, वो किसी पद के लिए या किसी संगठनात्मक पद के लिए नहीं था। वो 2024 में भारतीय जनता पार्टी से इफेक्टिव तरीके से मुकाबला करने के लिए था। हमें प्रसन्नता है कि हमारा लगा हुआ पौधा आज फल दे रहा है और इंडिया का विस्तार हो रहा है।
At 6 p.m. is when all of the opposition leaders are going to be at that meeting venue. 6:30 is when those informal talks happen, which is why the BJP says that this is nothing more than a party. But we have leaders that are already reaching in Mumbai now ahead of that meeting. Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi have just arrived. But let's take a look at what the Congress's stand on this is, because remember, massive controversy erupted after a poster was put out by the Congress party on its social media handles yesterday, which portrayed Rahul, or projected Rahul Gandhi, as the leader of this pack, and that seems to have ruffled a few feathers. So now, sources within the Congress party have told your channel that they are not going to be pitching for the post of the convener. The Congress is not going to be dictating any terms. They're not going to be wanting to be the natural leader of this India alliance. That's what we're now learning. The party doesn't want to leave the India bloc. They want to take everyone forward. They do not want to project this big brother image. The Congress wants allies to decide on who the convener is going to be. It is going to be a joint discussion, a joint decision. The Congress will not naturally want to be the convener or be the leader of this alliance, is the image that they want to project. CNN News 18 has now accessed the agenda of this all-crucial meeting. Remember, this is the third meeting that is taking place of this opposition bloc titled India. The finalization of India's logo is on the cards. That's going to be unveiled tomorrow, followed by discussions on key issues ahead of 2024 elections. A panel is also likely to be formed for the national agenda. The meeting comes amidst many claimants for the post of the Prime Minister, but that is something that a decision is not going to come to the fore just as yet. A top source in the Grand Old Party has now told CNN News 18 that the Congress will not be pitching for the convener's post just as yet. They do not want to play the big brother as far as this alliance goes. That's not the optics they want to project, is what we're learning. Meanwhile, Maharashtra Chief Minister Eknath Shinde is also going to be holding a dinner for the BJP and its alliance partners in Mumbai. So one city, two different alliances, two different meetings and two different optics. All of that buzz is being captured here on CNN News 18. But first, let's get you some reactions coming in from the opposition camp.
ये तो बात अगर आप देखें तो बीजेपी जितना हमें टारगेट कर रही है, उनके मन में डर बैठा हुआ है कि इंडिया भी जीत रही है। उनका जो उनकी नफरत है वो भारत से, उनकी नफरत इंडिया से, उनकी नफरत हमारे देश के संविधान से है, और वो हम उन्हें जीतने नहीं देंगे। नहीं, ये क्या महायुति, ये तो सारे डरपोक लोग साथ में आए हुए हैं, जो ईडी को डर रहे थे, एनआईए को डर रहे थे। ये सारे लोग एक साथ अगर आप देखें तो महाराष्ट्र को पीछे लेके जा रहे, तो हम उनके और ध्यान नहीं देखें। अगर आप देखें तो आज किसान त्रस्त है, आज महिलाओं की आवाज कोई सुन रहा नहीं है, उनके लिए हम लड़ रहे हैं। आई थिंक यू मस्ट हैव हर्ड फ्रॉम उद्धव जी वेरी क्लियरली yesterday that we have many choices. You have a country of 120 crore people. The BJP has no choice, but we have many choices for the PM face.
देखिए, अगर आपको विकास का एक ताना बाना बुनना है देश में, इफ यू वांट टू रियली हैव डेवलपमेंट इन दिस कंट्री, विकास का ताना बाना बुनना है इस देश में, तो आपके पास नीति की सूत होनी चाहिए, नियत का कपास होना चाहिए और नेता रूपी जुलाहा होना चाहिए। अगर ये तीनों होंगे, सूत होगा, कपास होगा, जुलाहा होगा, तभी विकास की बुनाई होगी। यहां न नीति है, न नेता है। इस मीटिंग को अगर एक हिंदी के मुहावरे में कहा जाए तो वो मुहावरा होगा, न सूत न कपास, जुलाहों में लट्ठम लट्ठा। कि हम सब बैठेंगे और कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम CMP बनाएंगे। आज का मुख्य उद्देश्य उनका है CMP बनाना। हमारा भी मानना है, यही इनका एजेंडा है, कॉमन मिनिमम प्रोग्राम। मिनिमम प्रोग्राम और मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट कैसे हो, कम से कम काम और ज्यादा से ज्यादा कमाना, यह किस प्रकार हो, यही इनकी नियति है, यही इनका उद्देश्य है। इस घमंडिया गठबंधन का उद्देश्य ही है मिनिमम प्रोग्राम, मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट, करप्शन से मैक्सिमम प्रॉफिट। सभी जानते हैं कि GM की मीटिंग मुंबई में हो रही है। GM मतलब घमंडिया मीटिंग, ये आज मुंबई में है। वास्तविक रूप में ये जो म्यूजिकल चेयर विपक्षी दलों के बीच में चल रहा है, इसके विषय में ज्यादा बताने की आवश्यकता नहीं है। मैंने बहुत सोच समझ कर म्यूजिकल चेयर के शब्द का इस्तेमाल किया है, क्योंकि इस प्रकार के विपक्ष के मीटिंग का अनुभव आप लोगों के लिए, देश के लिए और हमारे लिए कोई नया नहीं है।
We see that one hand, there's an India alliance meet happening. Parallelly, even Eknath Shinde has called up all his alliance partners and BJP leaders at NSCI. They'll also be having a dinner meet. So, ma'am, what do you have to say on that?
Who are his alliance partners? ED, IT, CBI. Yeah? He's called them. So I don't want to speak much about it because it takes agenda away from people's agenda. India is speaking people's agenda. India party members are speaking about India's agenda, and the agenda is the absolute uselessness of the central government, absolute failure of an unconstitutional government, an absolute abject failure to people's issues.
We understand that there will be a logo which will be...
Welcome back. You're watching The Nation at 5 right here on CNN News 18. Our next story relates to developments that are going to be taking place right here in the capital on September 9th and 10th. I'm talking, of course, about the G20 summit. My colleague Pallavi Ghosh spoke to the Lieutenant Governor of Delhi, Vinay Kumar Saxena, about all that's been done to prepare. Take a look.
Delhi is all spruced up, G20 ready, and it's a big occasion because one of the most powerful countries will be coming here, and the man who's actually organizing and looking after it, making Delhi clean, beautiful, is LG. He's joining me now. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on CNN News 18. All ready? Delhi?
Already, yes.
Already.
Absolutely ready.
It must have been a challenging task.
Definitely it was a challenge, but we did it in 2 months' time. And we are hopeful the guests who are coming to Delhi, they will enjoy the weather of Delhi, they will see the cleanliness of Delhi, they will see the culture of Delhi, and they will go back with sweet memories.
But you know, Delhi has a huge population. There are people who come in from other states and they all work over here. Do you think that was also the challenge, to make it look beautiful, keep it in order? And you know, we see all those beautiful sculptures. What is the idea behind it? Is it a slice of India which you want to showcase for our visitors?
Definitely, definitely. Our culture, our heritage is beautiful. Fountains and the artifacts which has been installed in Delhi shows our culture, shows our heritage also. You must have seen lions, fountains, statues, all kind of infrastructure has been created in last 2 months' time. And this is one of the reasons we want to project Delhi, that Delhi is the national capital and national capital should look like a national capital. Yes, our team, for example, NDMC, DDA, PWD, NHAI, CPWD, Cantonment Board, all have worked in tandem, and I have no words how to thank them. 24/7 they have worked, and it's the result of their hard work.
Delhi government wants to take credit for the G20 decoration. What do you want to say to them? Is this a time to take credit or?
पिछले 2 महीनों में हम लोगों ने हमारे हर डिपार्टमेंट में बड़ी मेहनत की है, 24/7 काम किया है, नाइट शिफ्ट में काम किया। मैं खुद रात में 2-2 बजे तक सड़कों पर रहा हूँ, मैंने देखा। अगर क्रेडिट किसी को लेना है तो 9 साल उनके पास थे। अगर 1 साल भी दिल्ली को इतनी मेहनत से दे देते तो शायद दिल्ली शक्ल बदल जाती, लेकिन अगर हम 2 महीने में कर सकते हैं तो उनको 9 सालों में क्यों नहीं करना पड़ा, ये उनको सोचने की बात है।
But Delhi will remain beautiful even after G20 is over, because maintaining it is going to be, I mean, look at this. Maintaining this will be a huge challenge. Is that an appeal you would want to make to Delhiites also?
मैं बताना चाहता हूँ, maintaining will not be a challenge for all at all. रीजन इज कि हमने जो दिल्ली को बनाया है वो परमानेंट एसेट्स क्रिएट किए हैं, इसको ये टेम्परेरी नहीं है। जितने भी आपने देखा आर्टिफैक्ट्स, स्टैचूज, माउंटेन्स लगाए गए हैं, ये परमानेंट एसेट्स हैं, ये दिल्ली के एसेट्स हैं, हमेशा रहेंगे। दिल्ली नेशनल कैपिटल है, इसको हर वक्त तैयार रहना चाहिए 1 हफ्ते के नोटिस पर किसी भी बड़े इवेंट को करने के लिए।
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching Viewpoint. I'm Anusha Soni. 28 opposition parties of the alliance called the INDIA are all set to begin their 3rd meet in Mumbai. Amidst fierce criticism coming in from their political opponent BJP, the alliance formed to defeat the election machinery of the BJP hopes to get some political structure which can give it some credentials as far as that electoral mandate and securing that electoral mandate is concerned, which they hope to do. So far, they have been criticized by the BJP for having no agreement on seat sharing, a common minimum agenda, or even a prime ministerial face. This meeting in Mumbai shall be